I'm delighted to welcome you to this talk, How to Become a Better Writer with Juliet Fletcher. Before we start, we have an attendee chat at the bottom of the screen. Let us know where you're from. Let us know how many sessions you've been to today. If you're enjoying the event, we'd love to take all your feedback. I know we're almost halfway through. It feels like a long day so far, and there's been so many insights from so many speakers. But I'm delighted to welcome Juliet Fletcher here today from Writing is Easy. Juliet, how are you?
I'm great, and I'm excited to be a part of this incredible lineup that you've put together. Thank you for doing this for everyone, for all of us.
Oh, you're brilliant. And we're delighted to have you part of the agenda. We've had lots of conversation earlier in the day about problems with writing, where it's costing organizations, like the impact it has. But I think your session is really practical, and it's going to tell people how to be better writers, hence the name. So, Juliet, I'll pass it to you, and I'm really looking forward to this.
All right, and we're off. So start your engines, because I think I probably have too much content to deliver in 30 minutes. So I will say this about the name of my company, Writing is Easy. I'm 5 years old. I started this business 5 years ago, and this month. And I couldn't come up with another name, and it is for me. I've found over the years, and there are lots of reasons it is for me. One is the way I was raised to speak clearly, speak well, to read, and all those kinds of things. So it's brought me to this place where I have a little company called Writing is Easy, and I basically support government contractors trying to do business with the government. I help them write their proposals. So let's get started. First of all, none of us are born writers. We might be born with a talent or gift, but it's really no one's business that you had to learn how to write. I sure did. I was taught, like I said, by a mother who was a writer and had some wonderful professors in the English program at Florida State University who taught me how to refine my writing and hone in on the messaging. And today, what I'm going to really talk about is some of those things that really matter in writing, no matter who your audience is, whether it's your mother, your spouse, your child, your boss, your neighbor, your friendly neighbor, your not so friendly neighbor. It really doesn't matter. And the majority of the writing that we do, whether we realize it or not, is persuasive. And when I talk about writing to win, it's not just winning for you, it's winning, period. It's winning for everyone. And what are sort of the components and elements of writing to win? It's persuasive writing. And persuasive writing is a very specific kind of writing. And I think some of you all are in the proposal field or business development field. And I used to have a discussion with a colleague of mine who called me a technical writer. I'm like, I am not a technical writer. I don't have technical knowledge. I'm an industry agnostic. I don't know any more about cybersecurity than I do about weapons. I might know a little more about cybersecurity than weapons building. But the point is that the difference between a technical writer or technical writing and proposal writing is that proposal writing is persuasive technical writing. So I'm going to take you through a little bit about persuasion. And what is persuasion? Or what is a persuasive person? It's good at persuading someone to do or believe something through reasoning or the use of temptation, which I don't really like the temptation thing. But it is an adjective. It's describing a type of communication. It's convincing. It's compelling. It's valid, and that's really important. Validity is extremely important. Substantiated proof of capability or proof of delivery. And it's winning. I came across Robert Cialdini's 7 Principles of Persuasion over the past year, and I was listening to some podcast, and he was talking, and he went through all of them and where they came from and why he developed them. And I just want to put these out here. You can go Google him and read his treatise on persuasion. But these are important pieces of communication, because it's It's the foundation of really good communication and understanding how to convey, convince, be compelling, and ultimately, if that's your goal, to win. So reciprocity, I think we all understand what reciprocity is, based on reciprocal sort of transactional thing, an obligation to give back when someone else is giving first. Scarcity, we all know that tactic in sales. You know, you get these emails that the sale at Old Navy is ending in 12 hours and 20 people have already got the stuff that you have in your cart and there are only 5 left. That's scarcity. Authority is obvious. All of these are relatively obvious. They're not terribly subtle, but we don't think about them often. It's following the lead of credible, knowledgeable experts. So for instance, if someone endorses you who's an industry leader, then you know you use it to convince people to pick you, if you want to use that term. Then you're using the principle of authority for persuasion. Consistency, and this is an interesting one. People like to be consistent with things they've said or done previously, and what that means is that if I say that I'm a cyclist and I ride 50 miles a week or 100 miles a week, and I start talking about it, and then I change. I want to be, maybe this isn't the best example, but I want to be consistent with what I've said and done. Now, I want to talk a little bit about this. Another exposure that I had on I don't remember which podcast it was. Elliot Aronson is a behavioral scientist. He's the one who actually came up with cognitive dissonance, that whole concept. And it's really interesting listening to him talk about how we end up in this place of cognitive dissonance. And it has to do with this, a little bit, with this principle of consistency, that when our actions are not consistent with previous actions, let's say you were a bully when you were young, but you're not this is an example he used. He was bullied, then he became a bully, and then he tried to figure out and rationalize why he wasn't a bully anymore and why he thought it was okay to be with the bullies. And it was really, he rationalized by saying he just didn't want to be bullied. But it created a cognitive dissonance because he wasn't being consistent with his previous behaviors. So the reason I'm bringing this up is that we can create cognitive dissonance in our readers, and we have to be very aware of that. Particularly when we're trying to change and convince people, persuade people to change. Liking is very obvious, and in a very simple sense, when you people like to say yes to people they like who are doing things that they like, that they believe in. Social proof, that's a real easy one. That's proof of your delivery, your capability, your performance, or whatever it is. And that can be a quote, that can be, you know, an endorsement on LinkedIn. And unity, it's simply our human innate nature and desire to belong. So if I want to belong, to consider myself a member of a conservation movement, and let's just use that, then I'm going to think in those terms. And then if I want someone I want to convince them to join this movement. For instance, when I worked for, say, the Manatee Club doing fundraising, you know, what kind of words and actions did we need to use so that our membership and potential donors felt like they belonged to this movement to save manatees? So this is probably the most important slide of all the slides in my deck, because good writing is about your reader and not about you. Most of us get caught up in what I call narcissistic, egocentric writing, when it's all about me. It's all about how I do things and the wonderfulness of me, but not about what my reader needs or what my reader is looking for. So let's think about this for just a moment. This is an image of the moon from Earth's very outer atmosphere. For a very, very, very long time, until about 1966, 67, this was our perspective. This was the human perspective of our place in the universe. That here we were on Earth and there's the moon, with no real concept of what the Earth looked like in the perspective of the universe. And a guy named Stuart Brand, who is a really interesting character, he was one of Ken Kesey's Merry Pranksters. I don't know if any of y'all read Tom Wolfe's book, The Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test, about Ken Kesey and his Merry Pranksters. A lot of acid tripping, a lot of weird stuff, but there was some cool stuff that came out of it too. And one of them was Stuart Brand. And in 1966, 67, he postulated that what would the effect of seeing the Earth from space have on humans? Which is really interesting and very, very forward thinking in the late 60s. We didn't really have any images. And what he did is he got NASA to publish the black and white image that they had at the time. But what I want to share is that one of the most famous images of Earth, which is what we call the blue marble. Earth taken in 1972 from Apollo 17. So what Stuart Brand was talking about is, if we had this new perspective, would it change the way we think? I would say yes. I would say yes, it has. It absolutely has. Elon Musk sent a roadster out into space, and we're on Mars, and all sorts of things are happening. And seeing the Earth from space is commonplace. I mean, goodness gracious, we've got Google Earth and Google Maps on our phones now, so we can zoom in on whatever we want to see. But what I want to talk about here is that change in perspective, exactly what Stuart Brand was talking about. Changing the way we think, changing your mindset about how you write, the intention of what you're trying to communicate. Because good writing, good communication is about perspective, and it's not about you. It's about your audience, and it's about your reader. So before we get started writing and starting to talk about this, I want you to think about the process. And that process begins with, what is the end state you're seeking? What do you want that reader or listener to know or think or do after reading whatever communication you are putting out there, whether it's a text, an email, a letter, a report, a phone call? What's the purpose? And I think we all find ourselves, it's not really in a dilemma, but in that place where this is what I need to convey. Do we stop and think about what's the best way to convey it, and what the perspective of the recipient is going to be to what we're sending? And is it going to achieve the end state that we're seeking? So you always want to consider the context of the communication, which can be formal, informal, the type of, whether it's a text, an email, a letter, report, a proposal, a white paper, a LinkedIn post, a Facebook, all of these. My gosh, we have so many different ways of communicating, don't we? And if the answer isn't immediately clear to you, slow down. Slow down. And one of the concepts that I'm going to push forward here is to write without fear and edit without mercy. So if you feel like you got to get started, go ahead and get started, but slow down and don't send it until you have refined your message by editing without mercy. So very specifically, when you're writing, it's about them. You write to the reader. You present all of your information, you answer the questions, you craft your message, and you share your concerns from the reader's perspective. I could go into a day-long thing about how to do this, but I think you all know when you come across something where, let's say you're right, I'm just going to use a proposal. You're writing a proposal, and you hardly ever mention the customer's name. So the customer is going to realize that this is egocentric narcissistic writing. You're telling me all the features and the wonderfulness of your solution, but you're not telling me what's in it for me. Where am I in this communication? And good copywriting, good sales writing, good persuasive writing puts the reader, their concerns, their pain points, their challenges, and the end state with your solution right up front. So don't waste any time. Get right to the point. Get right to the point of your message. I came across this book, and what's his name? John, I don't know how to say his last name, who put this book together. And I also heard a talk by him about smart brevity. And it's about being really concise and being very, very thoughtful about your writing. And it's about mercilessly editing. And in order to do that, you have to be concise. And you use this thesaurus feature. Find new words that capture an entire prepositional phrase. Instead of going on and on, find a word or a few terms that clearly state. And often, I just got off the phone with a very, very brilliant guy in the oil and gas industry. And we were talking about all of this. And I was saying, what I really need from you is for you to write like this is poetry. We have a page constraint. Every word counts. So you want to be clear. You always want to be concise, and you want to be deliberate, purposeful in your style and your communication, because that's going to make your writing accessible. It's going to grab the reader's attention, because most people don't write like that. You're going to say what needs to be said, and then you're going to move on. And brevity, unlike my presentation here, enhances retention. So be brief so you can be memorable. Sound bites, taglines, Nike, just do it, right? I mean, we can begin and end right there. One of the Bibles that's sitting here on my desk, my mother's copy of Drunken White with coffee or Scotch stains, I'm not sure which, has been a Bible for me ever since I started writing. And my layouts aren't working very well. Let's see. Let me see if I can remember what this says. It's you omit needless words. Basically, you just omit needless words. Let's see if the next one works. Let's see. Are we gonna go? Here it is. It's all right. I'll work through it.
A little bit of a formatting issue, but no panic. Do you want me to help you out?
No, I think I can read the little thing down here. A sentence should contain no unnecessary words. I really should know this anyway, honestly. Let's see if I can read the next one. So this is messing up a little bit, but you can go get this book. You can buy this book. You can get it off of Amazon. I would not get an electronic copy. I would have a hard copy sitting at my desk. And I know this is old school, and everybody's got Grammarly and all these other tools, but nobody nails it like Drunken White. And I don't know if y'all know who E.B. White is. That's the writer of Charlotte's Web. So the next one, let's see, is a paragraph. Okay, so omit needless words. A sentence should contain no unnecessary words. A paragraph should contain no unnecessary sentences. Do you see where this is going? Merciless editing. And let every word tell. So when I was talking to that oil and gas me today, I said, we're really sort of trying to write like poetry and short story. Every word counts. The way you punctuate, the way you order the words, the way you order the phrases. Some sentences need to be long because they're complex thoughts. They just need to be worded carefully. And this book can actually help you with how to use those, here we go, participle phrases or adverbs or punctuation or all of those different things. Use these tools. This is basic foundational rules of good writing. So the two books can help you and being thoughtful about your writing to tighten up your writing and make it more dynamic. You're going to eliminate or reduce prepositional phrases. And I'll tell you, you can go into anything you've written and do a find on of, for, and about. And do a find on that and which. And see if you really need those words. If you can't reword it so that it's a little more clear and you're not forcing the reader to work through all the administrations of your complex sentence structure just to get to the point. So 2 examples. I get paid often a lot of money, ridiculously, to do a lot of things like this, is getting rid of prepositional phrases, getting rid of that and which and who clauses, and changing infinitives to active participles. So to include becomes comma including. To ensure becomes comma ensuring. The meaning difference is so subtle. To include is static. Including means we're including it. We're ensuring. It's just very subtle, but it's all part of that persuasive mindset and perspective of the reader and the end state you're trying to convey to the reader with your communication. So this is an example of something I did with the city of Melbourne, Florida, when I did a business writing workshop with them, and I used this write-up. I don't remember where I found it. I cannot remember, but I found it, and I decided to use as an example of rewriting. And I'm going to read it out loud. As directed, in order to make a recommendation, I have been researching all the possible ways that we can reroute traffic during the parade. 2 years ago, we sent traffic via Melbourne Avenue. Last year, we sent traffic via Strawbridge, which caused problems for police directing traffic around the route. The significant increase in traffic on Saturday mornings due to the farmers market precludes us from rerouting via up Strawbridge again, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so I rewrote it. I think I did. I rewrote it, if you can see this. As directed, our recommendation for the 2020 St. Patrick's Day Parade detour is to reroute traffic via Melbourne Avenue. Our recommendation is based on research of the St. Patrick's Day Parade traffic detours for the past 3 years. Now, I'm going to tell you that which should come out and change indicated to indicating. Much more active, present, looking at, convincing the reader, indicating this route provides the smoothest transition available for drivers, allowing police to limit blah, blah, blah. So it's shorter, it's clearer, we've gotten rid of the that's, and we've gotten rid of the whiches with an H. And we've gotten rid of a lot of unnecessary explanations, just got to the point. So this is just a little brief example of taking something that is very wordy and trimming it down and editing it mercilessly, even though I didn't change the indicating, which indicated to indicating, but you can see the difference it makes, I hope. So I loved Mary Poppins, and supercalifragilisticexpialidocious is really quite a word. So they used one word to explain how wonderful, I guess it is, a jolly holiday is with you, Bert, if y'all remember the words from that song. So don't use 3 words when one will do. Delete prepositions. So here's an example. Point of view becomes viewpoint. These are just real simple little changes you can make. But when you start to become aware of how wordy you are and search out these words and begin to practice like an Olympic athlete with your writing, you will become a much better writer and a sought-after writer. Replace ION words with action verbs. Instead of provided protection, it becomes protected. We provided protection for the stuff. We protected them. And simplify. General consensus of opinion becomes consensus. Isn't it fairly obvious that's what we mean? And to include becomes including. So these are typical things that just stand out at me in a document that I just fix. I just go through and fix them all. And sometimes I have to move phrases around and make it read a little better. And I'll go back to Strunk and White here to learn how to place those sort of descriptive phrases in the right place so that they're doing the right thing. And when they are functioning properly, the reader doesn't even know. It's sort of like automatic transmission. You barely can tell that the gears are changing, and then there's that new transmission that I don't understand. But I think you get the point. The difference in a manual transmission, there's a lot of action there, and you've got this little jump, but with a automatic is smoother. And what you want the reader to do is feel like, instead of riding in a VW, old VW Bug with a manual transmission and a grinding clutch, you want them to feel like they're driving a Lamborghini. That's what you want. You want it to be smooth. You want it to be clear. You want it to be effortless and powerful and be a wonderful experience to read what you've written. Well, to maximizing. That's the last example. Okay, so we were taught in school, oh goodness, I'm just about out of time. We were taught in school to state our case, then make our case, and then provide a conclusion. And that is not how you write for any kind of persuasion. You put the most important stuff first. You begin with the end in mind, state it first, and get to the point to back it up. Now I'm going to go into like sixth gear. We're almost through.
Take your time, Juliet, because I think people are really enjoying it. So absolutely, take your time.
Oh, okay. I can just like blah, 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 blah.
No
So, well, let's go back to this for a minute then. So back in okay, let's see if I can do this now. No, the school thing is where I'm trying to go. There we go. Okay, so I was taught, like everyone was taught, when you write a paper for history, social sciences, English, whatever it is, to state your thesis, then back it up with, critical analysis or whatever the heck, reference stuff, and then you have your conclusion. And I still get documents from clients that have in conclusion, oh my God, you finally got to the point. I take that and I move it up to the very front of the document because they finally stated the value. We talk a lot about value proposition, why you plus them equals a win for them, which is also a win for you. But when you're communicating, you don't want to be sort of violently direct. You want to be clear about the end state, and you want to be clear about what you're trying to communicate. And this applies to emails, writing emails. Your subject line. I wrote so many solicitation emails back when I worked for, say, the Manatee Club. Oh my God, how do we get their attention besides telling them how many manatees died in the past month? You can only doom and gloom so much. And what kind of words? I literally talked to our donors and asked them why they donated and use their words. So I could incorporate that and change things up and get their attention. So what do we begin with? We always begin with the end state, and you state it first. What's the most important thing that the person who's reading or listening to you needs to hear or read? And get there quickly, and then you back it up. Then you substantiate your position. But get them to buy into your position first. They may not even need to read your substantiation. You may have done such a good job. All right. So now we have to get rid of words we don't need. And I'm really sorry. This is kind of blurry. It's just a funny little cartoon about this woman about circling back and do some blue sky thinking and whatever the heck all of that means. And he's like, oh dear, what are you talking about? So yes, use industry specific words and appropriate words for the context. And I'm talking to my 5-year-old grandson. I do not use the word context, although I will soon because he should understand what that really means. But, you speak to the audience and where they are. You go where they are. Using big words just to make you look smart is a fail. Even if it is a sort of an industry word, you can't make the assumption that everybody understands that word. Everybody who's reading what you're writing is going to understand it. If you're clear, you can be much more influential. And we're back to that persuasion thing. So it's very, very clear what you're trying to convey. And if you got to use acronyms, make sure they make sense and they're necessary. And of course, you know, the rule, always spell them out the first time. So this is sort of wrapping it up a bit. The idea is for you to fearlessly hit send. My goal is to encourage you and to empower you to write without fear. Get it down. It is so much easier to clean up than it is to come up with it. So come up with it all. Just put it all down and then just start thinning and culling and remembering that it's about the reader, that the context of the communication matters. Think first, gather your thoughts, and then just start writing and keep it really simple. One idea per sentence. Remember, get rid of unnecessary words, get rid of unnecessary sentences, and then get rid of, I can't remember what those three things were from the slide, from the Strunk and White slide. But basically, you're just calling and you're thinning and thinning and thinning and thinning. It's very much like, what's her name, Marie Kondo with the Joy and Cleaning House and stuff. And I'm going to say that I actually live this, even though the house I'm living in is a little bit bigger than I really need. I went from a 1,900 square foot house to an 850 square foot apartment. And I was getting rid of everybody's stuff. But the point is that if it doesn't have utility, why do you need it? And in writing, if it's not conveying, you can say joy, your message, then it doesn't belong. And what you start doing is catching yourself going, oh, I'm just showing my smarts. But that doesn't work. That's that egocentric, narcissistic writing. It's just like when you're describing the features of your company and you go on and on. Yeah, it's great. What's in it for me? What do they do for me? Where's the value? What's the benefit? How do I know you can actually do this? These are the so what? These are the questions that you need to ask, and go and remember the slides about the perspective change that we had, that we changed the way we thought about our Earth when we saw it in the grand, endless blackness of the universe, when we saw it from the moon. So be direct, cut the fat, avoid big words and jargon. And I'm going to just leave this here. Avoid semicolons. I have a thing about semicolons. People use them so much in writing, conjoining two different sentences that could be joined with a comma and an and or a whatever. They're an impediment to reading smoothly. And Strunk and White will also tell you how to use them, by the way. I should have like stock in this book or something. But anyway, so I'm often asked how to become a better writer. And now you're really going to start worrying about me. When I was in college, I took a course, a special topics course on Faulkner, and everybody kind of, oh, Faulkner. Well, there were some wonderful things that Faulkner brought to the literary scene. And one of them actually was this from his Nobel acceptance speech. Was the only thing worth writing about is the agony and sweat of the human heart in existence with itself. That's right down to the base core of what really matters. And I will say to you, when you write to communicate or convey something, get down to that spot that is the core of what you're trying to communicate. And to write better, you got to read everything. And when somebody writes something that you go, wow, that was so clear, how did they do that? It's similar to when I had my son was swimming and he became a 200 fly competitor, and of course that was Michael Phelps, main event, and actually got to meet him. It was kind of cool. And anyway, so he watched videos. He read, he listened to what Michael Phelps said, who didn't take a day off for Christmas, for his birthday. It doesn't mean that we have to be that intense, but he watched those videos to see the mechanics of how Michael Phelps was going through the water. And how was he able to go so much faster? What was it that he was doing? So look at good writing look at good writing. When somebody conveys something really clear to you and you don't go, what? And you don't have to go back. How did they do that? And then incorporate that into your practice. And you know, nothing's ever going to be perfect. So you're just going to give up on that. I mean, there was a typo in one of my slides. It should have been a possessive something. I'm like, oh, well. And I actually posted about this, something about what it was, I'm looking forward to joining, I meant, and it came out joking. Typo. I went in and edited my response, but nonetheless, you're never going to be perfect. You're just going to be the best you could be on any given day, and you kind of have to accept that. So that's it. And I want to share this. That right there was typed on this old ancient typewriter that I bought that still works. Took a few punches, but the point here is that go back to basics. Go back to basics. Simplicity, clarity, brevity, concise writing means that you have to have clarity of thought. It means you have to cull it down. You've got to clean it up. So I will hush now. If there's any time for questions, I'm more than happy to take them.
Juliet, you're starting a bit of a revolution in the attendee chat. You're getting a lot of positive feedback. People are really loving it. I would say there's quite a lot of lovely messages in there that we'll pass on.
Thank you.
I'll just two really quick questions, and then we can wrap it up. But there is a lot of questions about kind of the use of semicolons, and do you have a rationale for avoiding them?
Yeah.
Did you know? Yeah, go on.
So I don't have an example. I actually have a slide in another presentation that I give about, there's a book. Somebody actually wrote a book on semicolons. I'm like, really? Really? I didn't buy it. I just kind of read the thing about it. So here's the thing. A lot of people, I don't have a problem using them in complex lists in a paragraph. So our approach includes semicolon, 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 and period. Okay. Yeah. In a series, when it's kind of complex, and particularly if you're going to have some clauses or phrases in those that list that are separated by commas that can make it confusing. All right. Okay. I'm going to come up with an example. Oh my gosh. I'm trying to come up with a really simple one. I went to the store. I bought dog food. People will put a semicolon between those two complete kind of thoughts. What I do when did that make sense? I went to the grocery store, semicolon. I should actually say cat food, since one of my cats has joined the presentation. I went to the store and I bought cat food, is how I would write it. I went to the store, comma, and I bought cat food. It's so much more smooth. Those two thoughts are similar. They go together. There's no, and I don't have to go back and go, what's this semicolon thing? I went to the store, semicolon, I bought cat. Why aren't they just two different sentences? This is what I do. Why aren't these two sentences? Or why didn't somebody just do an and? Because it is an and. It's a progression. So that's an example. And I know a lot of people think that they know what they're doing with semicolons. And I'm just going to say, no, you don't. And I would work my way away. And you don't see semicolons in good copy. I'll say that. You do not see semicolons in good copy. Good copywriting is darn good writing, and it's a good practice. And just to take another second, I used to do triathlons when I was younger, and swimming makes you strong on all of the sports. Biking helps you running helps your biking, and swimming helps it all, right? So I do a lot of copywriting, and what copywriting does is exercise that muscle of brevity and concise writing and really careful choice of words, so that when I go over to more verbose writing of narratives for proposals or whatever it is, I'm carrying that practice over there. So studying copywriting and following folks on LinkedIn who are good copywriters who talk about copy is a great way to learn how to be a better writer, more concise, using principles of brevity and persuasion. All right, so I could go on,
I know, and I think they want you to, but unfortunately there's a whole agenda ahead. I was going to ask you.
Kevin's on deck. Kevin's ready to go.
Kevin is ready to go. But Juliet, thank you so much for that presentation. Everybody loved it. I think there's lots of people looking to get in touch with you. We'll share Juliet's information with you afterwards, and obviously you're on LinkedIn, Juliet, as you noted earlier. But thank you so much for that. And sure. Do you have any final passing words?
Not really. I just think read, and practice writing, and think about, it's like any habit, like that Atomic Habit book. Instead of just firing off stuff for the next week, pay really close attention and see if you can improve your writing in every instance of your communication, from texting to your kids or whatever. Just start being more thoughtful about it, more intentional. What are you trying to achieve? And yeah, reach out to me on LinkedIn and message me in a connection and let me know that you were on here. I'm always eager to hear feedback because I do these a lot, and I'm constantly trying to refine these so that they are better. And I'm going to be quiet so Kevin can take the baton and run.
No, you're very good. Well, Julia, thank you so much. In terms of Kevin Press's presentation, it starts in 5 minutes. So when this session ends, you'll be redirected over there. It will bounce over there. Kevin is speaking about AI and measurement, which is two things that people wanted to speak about. Kevin is a real, he's a real clear approach to AI. He'll show the negatives of it and he'll show the positive of it. He's got a real good perception of it, and he has written for lots of organizations such as healthcare, government, and insurance. So that's definitely a session to kind of catch up on, and he'll also talk about measurement as well. So thank you so much. Thank you, Juliet, and we'll see you at the next session.
All right, thanks.